Hey guys, let's talk about EVGA and the whole issue with the 3090s back when the New World beta was out. I don't know if you guys remember this story, but during the New World beta, a bunch of people complained that the EVGAs were basically faulting and bricking because of the New World game itself. People found that at the menu screen and even in parts of the game that their fans were like blowing really, really hard, and the temperatures got really, really hot, and in some cases, some cards out there were bricked. So if you don't know the full story, EVGA honored these people's claims and they sent them replacement cards even before receiving the old ones. But it was a bad message and bad PR for New World, because it sounded like it was blowing up video cards. And I even went through here locally with my wife's car. She has a 3060 Ti, and she played New World, and we heard beeping when we played New World, but it turns out it wasn't the video card that was beeping or any kind of temperature warnings. But we were scared, and we were thinking about this story when it happened. But this story came out today on PC Gamer that EVGA explains why some of their cards blew up. It was because of some soldering. I always say soldering. Seems like in the English language that should say soldering, but it's soldering. It wasn't the fan controller after all, but some flaky soldering. They explained that they explained why his GeForce RTX 3090s were failing on Amazon's soon-to-be-released New World, as it appears it wasn't the fan controllers that were at fault after all. Instead, after some serious investigations into the problems involving X-rays, it has pointed to the finger of shame at some dodgy soldering of the MOSFETs on a small batch of cards. They said they only received about 24, so about 24 dead 3090s that had failed from playing New World beta. They don't mention in this article how many 3080s or 3070s, but I heard that other 30 cards were having issues as well. While it hasn't divulged how many 3090s it has sold, this small batch of faulty cards made up significantly less than 1% of the total. They sent replacements before they got them, blah, 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 blah. Yeah. So around the time, the workaround was to set your frame cap to 60 FPS so the cards wouldn't go crazy. But it seems that the problem is sorted. Now, at the time, the New World devs, they issued a response, and I even criticized them for saying this, is that there's no way it's our game. The problem is a hardware problem. And at the time, my response was, this is probably a combination of both. It's probably a combination of both, because coming from a QA certification background myself, you also want to certify your software with certain hardware. So if this was happening with 3090s, that means that you didn't test this configuration, and you probably would have known about this issue had you tested with the 3090 configuration. But that was my response back then. But the problem stemmed from a small batch of cards, as EVGA has explained. So Amazon could have tested with 3090s and didn't see the problem. So I apologize, Amazon. Anyway, but the article also says that it points to some third-party tools such as GPU-Z and HW Info, which is what I use, were misreporting data from fan controllers, which is where a lot of the theories originated. EVGA's own reporting tool, Precision X1, showed what was really happening with the fan controller. It was worth grabbing this tool if you do have a 3090, as it will indicate whether a microcontroller update is available, which should mean the data is properly reported by third-party tools as well. So the problem was EVGA the whole time. The entire time. EVGA was at fault here, which a lot of people kind of suspected. A lot of people kind of suspected that it wasn't the game. Like I said, I thought it was a little bit of both. I thought it was EVGA, and I thought it was a little bit of New World as well. Because, yeah, that menu screen... Listen, game developers, independent of EVGA's issues here, game developers, why y'all menu screens running at 7,000 FPS? You need to get your menu developers and your game developers to talk to each other, man. Y'all need to use the same tech. Because if you cap frames in the game menus, if you cap frames in the settings, it only does it in the game. It doesn't do it at the menu. So to get around that, you have to go into the NVIDIA or AMD settings and cap your frames at the driver level, which is crazy. It's crazy. You don't need to run the menu. Of all places, you don't need to run the menu at 1,000 frames per second and just blow up your card. It's like an unwanted stress test of your card for a lot of these games. So I think that's something that game developers could probably change independent of this EVGA issue. this EVGA issue kind of brings to light that kind of issue, that kind of problem. While you're at it, why don't you stop making the sound 100%? Hello, when you launch a video game, you shouldn't have your eardrums exploded. So stop setting the sound to 100%. Set it to 50, man. Set it to 75. For anything but 100. Don't crank it all the way up. A lot of us don't run our games at 100% volume. We run at 50. Some people run, you know, certain like 25, 30% and turn other things up. Don't crank your sound up to 100. Anyway, I digress. Check the story out over on PC Gaming, PCGaming.com, PCGamer.com. EVGA explains why the 3090s were blowing up. It's because of some flaky soldering on a small batch of cards. So EVGA still retains its history and its reputation of having really good support. So while their hardware may have some issues, they will hook you up with a new card without no questions asked. So check it out, guys. They got the article over there on PCGamer.com.